All right, this will be the end of it. We're going to go from October 1793 right up until the end of Robespierre's life. So October 1793, Marie Antoinette is eventually rounded up and killed by the more radical elements of the revolution. This was actually kind of a turning point. When she was being accused at the last minute by the Jacobins just before she was killed, and nobody had any doubt that she was eventually going to be rounded up and killed as a treasonous, just like her husband, especially by the summer of 1793. But just about when her sentencing was over, they added a charge against her of molesting her own children. And when that happened, the audience there saw the look in her eye, and she responded to that charge. And based on her response to that charge, that unfounded charge of molesting her own children, people knew it was untrue, and she was telling the truth. And the pain in her eyes and the pain in her face was so evident that it was almost a moment where the audience swung in her favor. But fear, paranoia, the power of the tribunal at that point was so great that even this, intense pain that she displayed at being charged with something that was so awful and so inaccurate was not enough to kind of bring people back to the reality at this point. And things had gotten carried away. But that moment when she was sentenced was a big one because I think it was maybe the birth of, people kind of getting slapped back to beginning to see the reality of the situation, and that things had maybe gone too far with the Jacobins and gone too far with, killing at this point. So December 1793 to summer of 1794, this is called the Terror for the most part. And the one who kind of came up with the justification for using terror to teach the values of the revolution was Danton, but the one who really loved the idea was Robespierre. And so I know this sounds, really strange, but the idea was if we could use fear and terror and violence and chaos, or not chaos, but violence to teach the new values like the Rousseauian and rational values, then we can quickly get people to adopt this new way of living and, force them into becoming, democratic patriots of the new France, as opposed to, falling back into being subjects of the monarchy. So I guess the idea is that the terror was conceived of as a tool to make people learn quickly how they are supposed to behave under this new regime. And they used a lot of terror, killing, threats, whatever, to show the new values of the revolution. So that's pretty important. At this point, things kind of go haywire. The Constitution is suspended. So the democratic Constitution that they worked so hard to create is now suspended, and all power is given to the Committee of Public Safety, Robespierre and the boys, Saint-Just. These guys are given total control over the country. They can decide who lives and dies. They can decide how the new not the new Constitution, but how the country is run, how the war is run, how they deal with Girondins and all that kind of stuff. And this is also the most radical part of the revolution. Hébert, who is the most radical of all the Jacobin revolutionaries, his ideas are eventually adopted. And this is where we get the calendar that replaces the Christian calendar with this romantic calendar that you guys looked at one day in class. This is where all the street names that are, like St. Denis and St. John are replaced with sectarian street names. So any reference to religion is abolished. This is where they basically round up the last of the loyal priests to the Pope and kill them, or it's pretty much open season on anybody who has any allegiance to the Roman Catholic Church. And this is where Robespierre does his Festival of the Supreme Being. And this is kind of like one of my favorite absurd things that happens during the Revolution. Robespierre decides to suspend the use of the guillotine for a couple of days so that he can introduce France to his new God. He never believed that people should be without religion completely. He just believed that the gods they worship should be very different than the Roman Catholic God that he was forced to worship when he was being brought up. So he creates a new God kind of out of nowhere. It's the god of reason, or the goddess of reason, and he, the supreme being of reason, I guess, is his new deity. And so, in order to celebrate the beginning of this new kind of religious theme that's supposed to be France's adopted God, he holds this thing called the Festival of the Supreme Being, and he has some artists create a paper mache mountain where he is going to, appear at the summit of in a toga, like a Roman toga, a republic toga, holding a staff in kind of celebrating, the beginning of this new religion to the Supreme Being. What's awesome about this, in a really weird sort of way, is that he's taken things so far that we're now on the edge of kind of madness. He's replaced one religion with his new religion, but also, like, my favorite thing is that he's on a paper mache mountain. Even nature itself isn't good enough anymore. He has to create a perfected version of nature in order to, introduce this new supreme being. So the point is, everything has become so theoretical, so lofty, so sanitized, that everybody needs to be afraid for their lives at this point, because if it's not, fitting into Robespierre's version of how things should be, then you're at risk of, dying. So, in any event, shortly after the Festival of the Supreme Being, Robespierre one night says he has a list of traitors, and that he's going to bring it to the National Convention the next day. The problem is now everybody in France is worried that they might be on this traitors list. And so that's when they actually arrest Robespierre in July of 1794. And, well, I guess if you use the new French Revolution calendar, it would be whatever. But they arrest him, and he is charged with treason, and he's put to death. And just before he's put to death, he's in house arrest, and he gets hold of a gun, and he tries to shoot himself. He misses, killing himself, and blows his lower jaw off. So just before he's put to death, he's in agonizing pain with a bullet wound to the jaw, which I also think is, maybe a little bit of poetic justice, in the sense that the one thing that might have been able to save him is his gift for rhetoric. But in the end, he can't even use his mouth, and, he's put to death by the guillotine as well. We're going to do a lot more on this when I show you the movie Danton, but that's it for now. That's a pretty good summary of what happened. The other thing is, Napoleon doesn't come around for another 4 or 5 years. He's in existence. He's a Jacobin. He's part of the government, but his big day doesn't come till about, well, it starts in 1797, and then 1799 is the time when Napoleon enters the scene. So we'll end it there. You got the gist of things, and then at least you have some notes to look at if you don't hear it in class.